Hi guys, welcome to the LBD Daily. Today is a really interesting one because we're changing things up a little bit. Today will be more of a masterclass for young entrepreneurs and small businesses on how to thrive and survive during COVID. What's great today is that actually we're being used as a use case, and our guest today is a gentleman called Nick Knupper, who was the former head of growth and innovation at Booking.com. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Nick onto the call.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
Very well, thanks.
Great. So welcome to the LBD Daily.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So for those who don't know of Nick's audience, I'm Marina, founder of Little Black Door, the social wardrobe. And Nick, for LBD, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Nick Knupper. I am currently in Amsterdam. I've worked in advertising and consumer technology for the last about 8 years. And I've just recently launched a digital media consultancy called Verify. So quite an exciting time, quite a crazy time to be even thinking of launching anything. But I hope that, today we can chat about a few things that we could do to kind of weather the storm, as they would say.
So it's super exciting that you're starting a consultancy. So what I thought today is like we'd use LBD as a use case and how
Yeah.
you direct that in terms of like how we can cope with COVID. So just looking at my notes. So in terms of founders, they're asking about how this will impact their business. So what would you say is your answer to that? What should we be doing during this time?
So I think the question that's come up quite often just amongst friends of mine that are entrepreneurs and startup founders is that everyone's trying to interpret what's the impact, on their business, and not necessarily shifting the mindset and thinking about what's the impact on their customers. And I think that's quite an important shift to start looking at, how what's been driving the change in customer behavior during this time. I think that, there's two kind of fundamental drivers for customers based on two principles of fear and greed. So it's fear is what am I missing out on, and greed is what can I have more of. And I think that we kind of need to be cognizant that customers don't change. Well, we do, but change takes time, and there's a few things that might not change. We're always going to be wanting to seek variety. We'll always be looking for a good deal or a price promotion. I'm trying to think of what else came up, but I think more importantly is that we're online now more than ever. So it's definitely important for, I think, startups and SMEs to take this time to really look at what are they doing to position their businesses online, and kind of drive 100% parity of what their kind of customer experience is offline.
So clearly, we're mainly in isolation. This is a great time to really push online SEO, ads, digital strategies.
Yeah.
So because I mean, what screen time's now up 33%? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it's a super interesting topic to look at some of the research coming out of the States, with Apple releasing some stats on screen time. But I think it's, you need to do a bit of a deep dive in figuring out where are your different audiences spending time. Is it on tablet? Is it on mobile? Is it on desktop? And figuring out like how's the consumption patterns changed. I mean, I know for myself, I can sometimes sit on Facebook and I get like stuck going through videos, and half an hour's gone by and I've pretty much watched every type of content that could be out there. It could be ranging from like stupid cat videos to like UFC reruns. I think the more importantly is figuring out what are your audience's interests and what are the kind of things that you can kind of target around that.
And discussing audiences
I just saw
during this time,
screen,
how would
screen
you?
time is up.
What would be?
I
How
think
would
that's
you
so right.
advise businesses to attract new audiences?
So good question. depending on the maturity of your business, and looking at kind of new customers being acquired, what your cost of acquiring new customers versus retaining customers. I think that a smart strategic move maybe would be to, depending on your costs and how much you're willing to invest in your paid media strategy, is to look at, the cost of reaching customers that are already familiar with your brand. Maybe less of an effort if you're looking at your acquisition funnel, to rather look at how can you kind of cross and upsell price promotions to customers that have already bought into your brand. That's probably personally something that I would do. But again, some businesses are happy to run at 20 or 30% churn. Yeah.
So what would your advice be? For instance, imagine a business that hasn't ever used kind of Facebook or Instagram or Google, and they're new to it. What kind of budget would you?
I definitely think that with this kind of shift to online, and online becoming more emphasis to customers being online at the moment, I would definitely, as an SME or founder, spend some time going through and investing, and I think we might chat a bit about this later, but was investing in time and upskilling yourself. So, playing around Facebook's, online tools, and training, and same as Google with like search ads. It's all free and it's all available. And I think that there's never a better time than now to kind of really focus on upskilling yourself and kind of, widening the breadth of your skill set with running like small different paid experiments of content that could be more engaging to your audience, or looking at changing up different types of ads, or just learning the fundamentals of setting up different types of ads on either platforms.
And when you're discussing ads, are you saying like try, for instance, doing like videos to polls to like really diversifying what you're
I would probably look at what is your content strategy now, and almost do like a self audit. What kind of content are you using? Video, static imagery, testimonials. Really look at, a benchmark engagement rate of 4% of your total audience. Try to stick around that. And if there's no one really engaging in your content, then try and reach out to customers, or try and follow what you think your customers are doing. I mean, the best advocate for your brand is your customers, and if you're not kind of engaging with them and learning what they're doing and what they're looking at and what types of media they're consuming and what channels they're consuming on, then I think you're going to have a lot of work to do.
Great. I mean, great answer. I love growth hacking, and like hacking different communities that could be mine.
Yeah.
Would you, because I spend a lot of time on Facebook, for instance, looking at like people that love wardrobes or whatever, and try and get into that group and then target them, or when I do a Facebook ad, target someone that is part of a larger group. Would you say that's a good strategy?
So I think firstly to just help kind of demystify, a lot of people, I mean, like growth hacking and growth marketing has been around for seven or 8 years. I know that we did extensively at Tencent, and Booking.com was kind of like one of the pioneers of A/B testing. I mean, I think they test pretty much everything on the site, that a website or front end desktop site that you looked at 2 weeks ago probably isn't the same site that it is today. But you also need to understand that if we are doing like 1,000 tests in a month, less than 10% of those actually have any kind of statistical significance. So a lot of people think, okay, I'm just going to do this test whereby I'm going to go and troll Little Black Doors live show, and I'm going to comment, get pretty professional, whatever. And people are trying things like that, and that's great, like great initiative. But just understand that it takes a lot more of time and investment to look at any kind of impact that a growth hack can have. And I mean, growth hacking can start at it's simply testing, doing like A/B testing on different imagery and copy, which I think is quite easy to do across Facebook and Google. But you do need to understand that just simply trying different types of messaging and forms of content with your audience is enough for you to start learning what they're engaging with or not, and then also trying to figure out what kind of engagement are you driving organically without paid media. I think that if you reverse engineer it and look at what's working organically as opposed If it's anything specifically about like a new feature release or a new product, and you're seeing great organic engagement, then maybe put some paid media behind it, because that's kind of your first signal that people are actually kind of enjoying the relevance of the content.
Great answer. And so in terms of, again, like taking immediate action, we discussed about focusing on optimizing organic channels. A lot of people are quite scared about email.
Yeah.
What would be, because a lot, like, because at the moment I've been flooded with emails about COVID and basically people saying the same thing. What would you, because I know the email is a great way to connect to your clients.
Yeah.
What kind of strategy would you put towards email?
So it's depending on what your kind of marketing tech stack looks like. So just to kind of pull it back a bit, is looking at, what kind of channels do you want to start off with? And, typically it would be email, social media, maybe direct, SMS, if, that's still valid. And then looking at, starting off with a really simple tool like MailChimp, and trying to kind of build out, some sort of CRM funnel whereby you're starting to kind of really understand, who are your kind of super users or advocates that are like, opening your emails all the time, and then starting to kind of segment that into, people that have a high open rate versus a low open rate versus no engagement, and kind of really starting to work through what kind of content and what metrics are attached to that content that are working well for you.
Okay. And do you have any other kind of platforms which you'd say are very good in terms of deciphering the marketing tunnel that you would suggest for others to use?
At the moment, not to get kind of technical, I think that use what's available, only because there's so much free kind of training around it, specifically with Facebook. I mean, Facebook and Instagram, we all know the power of Instagram and how much time we spend on it. And definitely, I think trying to map out your customer journey, and think about what kind of touch points you need to think that you should have a brand presence on to either kind of create awareness or encourage conversion, depending on what you're offering and what your kind of marketing objectives are. But I think as a startup, I would primarily focus on Google and Facebook. I don't really play much at all on Twitter. But for some brands, it's still very relevant, and for others, not really. I mean, some I see that they only use Facebook and Instagram.
And let's talk SEO.
Yeah. So I think SEO is something that for small businesses to understand what they can do to increase kind of their search engine results page ranking, looking at what kind of content they could be pushing through organically. What kind of keyword strategy are they using in their content? That's something that you can do today. And you can also use, there's a whole bunch of free tools. I'm happy to share maybe a snapshot of some of the tools and different channels that are available for businesses to kind of look at the loading speed of their pages, looking at, the kind of the keyword strength, and things like that, to kind of make sure that whatever they can do now, which won't cost them anything, will in the long term be more beneficial for the business, specifically with SEO.
No, great. And after this, for our podcast, we'll put all the links so everyone can have a look at it. And then, so in terms of, because I know we're slightly running out of time, so how to accelerate and diversify your skill set? I think we slightly breezed upon.
Yeah.
But,
we spoke about looking at how to diversify your skill set, and I think we can loop back to what we chatted about earlier, but there's so much information and training online. I mean, if you just go look at Udemy, you could probably do like a growth hacking course for 20 euros. And I think that you should really, you're only making it just a disadvantage to yourself if you're not kind of being progressive in this time and making sure that you can do as much training and learn as much as possible. And I mean, I'm no rocket scientist. There's specialists that purely spend their life career doing SEO or performance marketing. But I definitely think that it's an important time to really focus on how important is are these digital channels for your business and making sure that you're reaching your customers.
No, I totally agree. And again, we'll put some courses on Udemy that we recommend in the podcast text. And then going on to my final question, which we ask everyone, Nick, what would you say would be your one wardrobe tip?
My wardrobe tip.
Yes.
Depending on how I understand a tip as, for guys or for girls.
Okay, this is gonna be interesting. I'd like your one for boys and one for girls.
So like a wardrobe tip, like something that's
Yeah,
like non-negotiable.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, what would be your one wardrobe tip?
So I think maybe keep a clean wardrobe.
Okay, those are for boys.
uh, yeah, definitely. I think so. I was going to say for boys, like I think a leather jacket's essential, and I think a wardrobe tip for girls is also maybe keep a clean wardrobe. But what's a wardrobe tip for girls? Gosh, I'm trying to think of what like I reprimanded all my ex-girlfriends with all the time.
Probably stop shopping and use LBD apps so you can
No,
be like
keep your
efficient
own
with your
socks.
clothes.
Don't steal socks. Keep your own socks. So make sure that
I love that.
your
I went like these aren't my socks. I saw them from my brother, but he doesn't know. But anyway, no, we will. But anyways, Nick, thank you so much.
Cool.
Like I said, guys, all the information that we discussed today, we'll put on the podcast text. And we're hopefully going to be doing more of these masterclasses with Nick because he's just full of like, info that will help us all. Thank you again, Nick, and see you soon.
It was great. Take care.